Namaskar, a hearty welcome to all of you. Today's lesson is Government Responses to Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Women and Children Living with HIV/AIDS. Friends, to start with, the paradox of HIV is that it is the rights of the affected population and those most at risk that must be protected in order to prevent the spread of the epidemic. A special protection is required to be extended to women and children, as women are biologically more susceptible to infections that can be transmitted during the sexual acts. The scientific opinion is that thin mucous lining of women's birth canal allows HIV virus to enter the body of the women during sexual acts. Women are also often unable to refuse sex even if they don't want it. As regards the children, HIV can be transmitted from HIV positive pregnant woman to the body during pregnancy or during childbirth or through breastfeeding. Most infection of children below 15 years occurs due to parent-to-child transmission. The first HIV infection was detected in the year 1986 and created an epidemic situation amongst the injecting drug users. In a democratic country like India, the problems brought by HIV/AIDS epidemic needs to have a government response, as the government, being the guardian, must recognize the seriousness of the problem. As the present lesson concerns the protection of the rights of women and children and government responses in the problem, it is necessary to review the various government programs regarding solution of the emerging problem. And so far there is no governmental program that has been taken up specially in order to provide special protection of women and children living with HIV and AIDS. So, a review of some governmental programs can be made which may be beneficial to the women and children regarding the present problem. The first reaction of the government was soon after the first detection of the epidemic. The government of India established a high-power National AIDS Committee in the year 1986 under the chairmanship of the Union Minister for Health and Family Welfare to formulate the strategy and plan for the implementation of the national AIDS control programs. The Indian Council for Medical Research has also set up AIDS Task Force. The National AIDS Committee is also established under the Ministry of Health. The next year, that is 1987, the Government of India initiated the National AIDS Control Program with help from the World Bank to coordinate the national response to HIV/AIDS. The activities were confined to screening of sexually promiscuous population and blood donors and carrying out some educational program. Another task was screening of transfused blood for HIV to assure safety of the donated blood and to prevent HIV from this source. In the year 1988, the International Summit of Health Ministers called for the spirit of social tolerance and greater exchange of information on HIV/AIDS. Since then, the 1st December every year is being observed worldwide as a day of action that is designed to raise public awareness of AIDS and to catalyze new and greater commitment against the pandemic, not just for one, but for 365 days a year. The World AIDS Day highlights up-to-date information on AIDS, prevention and care. It aims to stimulate discussions and actions among people who are not confronted with the messages of the spread of the AIDS, and to foster compassion, hope, and understanding to every corner of the globe. World AIDS Day is supported by the World Health Assembly, the United Nations system and government, committees, and individuals around the world. Apart from the response of the government of India, various states also have adopted the state AIDS policy, of which an example may be cited by reference to the situation in the Manipur state. The government of Manipur introduced the Manipur State AIDS Policy on the 3rd of October 1996. Thus, the state of Manipur became the first and only state so far in India and also in the Southeast Asia to adopt the harm reduction policy and to start harm reduction projects on the government sector, which started since the 7th November 1998. For this reason, it is imperative to review the Manipur State AIDS policy to appreciate its response in the matter of prevention and protection of the rights of the people in general, particularly of the women and children. The structure of Manipur AIDS policy. In this regard, the first cluster of HIV infection was detected in Manipur in February 1990. Gradually, the HIV infection has taken firm roots in Manipur. Further analysis of data shows that the infection is now no longer confined to a particular group of people, but it has spread to the general population. There is increasing evidence of HIV infection among pregnant women who are attending antenatal clinics and persons attending STD clinics. The government was of the view that the social, economic, and developmental consequence of AIDS in Manipur in the near future will be grim unless an immediate planning is launched. Keeping that in view, the government adopts the policy known as Manipur AIDS policy. The Department of Health is designed as the progress of implementation of the policy. The objectives of the policy to discuss are: first, to make provision of accurate information and education to make the people aware of and to protect themselves from HIV infection. Secondly, to ensure voluntary participation of people with HIV/AIDS. Thirdly, to ensure safeguard of confidentiality. Fourthly, to foster respect for privacy, dignity, and individual human rights. Fifthly, to cause avoidance of discrimination and stigmatization. Sixth, to provide quality medical care. Seventhly, to make provision of social benefits and social support system for the people with HIV/AIDS. Number 8, provision for creating a helpful and supportive social environment in the community so that people who suspect themselves to be infected can come forward for voluntary testing and for seeking help so that they can live peacefully with other members of the society. Lastly, to create an atmosphere of avoidance or removal of fear, psychosis in the minds of the people. Under the policy, the State AIDS Authority is the Department of Health. The department, being the State AIDS Authority, will follow an intensive and systematic approach for informing youth, the students, the women in the reproductive age group, and general population through various media channels to enable them to protect themselves from HIV infections and to obtain help as early as possible. The campaigns must aim at creating public awareness, giving information, changing attitudes, practices, or behavior. The basic message will include information on how HIV is spread, how it does not spread, the importance of voluntary participation of the people with high risk behaviors, facilities available for voluntary HIV antibody testing, the service provision, the importance of non-discrimination, respect for privacy, dignity of patients with HIV/AIDS, the influencing patterns of behaviors which may put an individual at risk, rehabilitation of recovering drug users, people with HIV/AIDS, and various aspects of this policy. Targeted messages will be given to the people with high risk behaviors such as injecting drug users, commercial sex workers, etc., so that they may choose the intervention options which may reduce the risk of HIV infections. To put the objectives into practice, various communication channels such as print media, including newspapers and journals, electronic media like TV, radio, films, video and audio cassettes, and traditional media like jatrawali, dramas, folk plays, and music ensembles to be used. The policy further determine appropriate legislation to be initiated for proper and effective implementation of the nation's AIDS control program in the state in the light of this state AIDS policy. As far as the implementation of the AIDS policy and the public interest litigation is concerned, Manipur State AIDS policy is an important program on the actions of the government that must be taken up, but it has not been done, and many years have lapsed without implementation. A public interest litigation was filed before the Guwahati High Court, being Sri N. Sharat Chandra Singh versus the state of Manipur and others. Civil Rule PIL number 834 of 1996. The basis for the case was that on 4/9/1998, a news item was published in the Imphal Free Press that Comptroller and Auditor General of India, while auditing the accounts of the state government for the year 1996-97, has found out non-implementation of National AIDS Control Program. The report stated that despite the facts that the state of Manipur had 17% of the India's total HIV positive cases, a sum of rupees 1.49 crore received from the center during the period of 1997-98 for implementation of the National AIDS Control Program was not released by the state government to concerned department and other bodies. The Guwahati High Court, by its order dated 4/2/1999, had directed the Secretary Finance Government of Manipur to release the funds sanctioned by the central government and to allot the same to the appropriate authorities and persons for proper implementation of the different AIDS control programs within the period of 3 months from the date of judgment. The Advocate General of Manipur was directed to monitor the whole matter. Similar case also came up before the Guwahati High Court for directing state of Assam to release the fund for implementation of the National AIDS Control Program. In Subodh Sarva versus State of Assam, Civil Rule number 3984 of 1996, the court directed the state of Assam to set the machinery in motion by releasing the funds sanctioned by the center for implementation of the National AIDS Control Program. Well, friends, we can conclude by mentioning that it is seen that government response as far as the central government is concerned is seen to be prompt and active. But the cases of some of the state governments, positive directions of the courts to implement national AIDS policy was required and necessitated. Further, there is no special provision made for protection of rights of women and children. The response to the government is very much general and not specific, and thus not well projected to the cases of women and children. The spirit of Article 15, Clause 3 of the Constitution points to the making special provision for women and children, and considering this positive duty, the governmental response to protection of the rights of the women and children with HIV/AIDS is terribly inadequate. It is humbly submitted that the state in future may not compel public-spirited persons to approach the lower courts for release of funds meant for prevention of HIV/AIDS. We must understand the meaning of right to life guaranteed under the Constitution, which meant live and let live. So with these few words, thank you very much. Have a good day.